Hello everyone, I'm very happy to welcome you to this special series of masterclasses organized by International School Chess Federation within framework of World Cadets Championship 2025. My name is Agapite Ravetiana and I will be the moderator of today's session, Raising Champions from Talent to Title. Today, we'll explore one of the most fascinating and let's say one of the most challenging questions in chess: how to transform raw talent, passion into real achievement, and eventually into championship titles. We're lucky today to be joined by two very well-known chess figures in our chess community. Let me introduce our speakers of this session. Grandmaster Vladimir Chuchelov, FIDE Trainer of the Year in 2014. Over nearly 2 decades, he has worked with some of the strongest chess players in the world, including Anish Giri, Fabiano Caruana, and Timur Rajabov, known especially for his preparation methods at the super tournament level. And our second speaker, Grandmaster Ramesh, a global authority in youth training and the coach of Praggnanandhaa, the 8th-time Junior World Champion. As well, Ramesh is known not only for his technical expertise, but for his philosophy of active learning. Beyond chess, he emphasizes psychology and parental support, helping young players grow without burnout or unhealthy pressure. We will start our session with Mr. Chuchelov. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be there.
Okay, so Mr. Chuchelov, for almost 20 years you have been actively involved in coaching. How did it all start for you?
It started a very long time ago, but I recall this year very well. It's 2001. I was playing the tournament in Spain. It was, I think, at that time, interzonal tournament qualification to the FIDE World Championship. And I met the Dutch Grandmaster Jeroen Piquet, who was at that time, not maybe top player, but around this. And we had kind of a good relation, and he invited me to be his second in the coming Vacanze. Actually, the tournament was, I think it was close to the end of the year, and there were only a couple of months in between with Vacanze, and this is how it all started. So I got the invitation to be a second. That was my kind of debut I wouldn't say trainer or coach, because it's more, second, it's a little bit different, but that is how it all started. Also, this year 2001 was for me very memorable in sense it was in general very important year in my career, because I also met in the same tournament Grandmaster Josip Dorfman, who was already at that time proclaimed coach, and it was the period when he was working was in the middle of working on his so-called static balance. It's later he released his course and the book, and for me it was actually the starting point of my future strategic balance course. So this is how it all started. It all started in 1 year, so I don't know if it was coincidence. And I remember that right after invitation to become a second in Vacanze 2002, Jeroen invited me for the training camp, and he booked for me the hotel, and I got the same room like Viktor Kochnoi, who had a session with him previously. So for me, it was all new. It was the introduction to the top chess, and it entirely changed my perception of everything and basically my whole life. And so that was how it all started, but it got very intensive start because already it was the last year for Piquet for his career as a chess player. So later he went to work for at that time, Messena of all these Monaco tournaments, Van Oosterom from Netherlands, and he stopped his chess career. But another Dutch player took over, Luc van Dely, and from advice of Piquet, obviously. And in 2003, I was already going to another Vacanze, and that was actually my real debut, because the first one was actually, I had so many expectations, and probably I kind of a little bit burned out before this tournament. Also, I remember that I got very, very sick. Vacanze was always famous for that, but I got all I could. And in the middle of the tournament, I had even to leave. So my real debut was in 2003, actually, with Luc Van Baarle. It was very memorable too, because I took him over when his score at Vacanze before that tournament was counting like around -30 in total, because he was playing there for many years. And he had a special arrangements with the organizers, who basically, it was some kind of financial arrangements where they were expecting him again to do some minors. But we had a very serious training camp for like 5 weeks. He came to Belgium, and it was everything. So it was a lot of chess. I think we were working 6 to 8 hours a day. Then he was still biking. I remember even some Dutch television crew came there, and they were filming how he's biking because we have here good surroundings for that, for sporting. And so we did really big work, and this tournament was absolutely going great. It was like all the tournament he was in plus score, and he had very big chances to win if he wouldn't lose to Karpov in one of the last rounds. But anyway, he had a special arrangements, as I mentioned, with the organizers, and finally he did much better than they were expecting. Even during the tournament, they were coming to me and saying, "Vladimir, what did you do? Luke is suddenly performing. He's in plus. It's absolutely unacceptable for our arrangements. So we are going to have big financial loss." So that was how it all started, and immediately Dutch Federation took over. They asked me if I would be interested to work with some young Dutch talents. So there was finally we came to terms, and I started working with the group called Young Orange, I think, if I remember well. There were like 8 players at that time. They were all around 2250, 2300. And those days, I think 7 of them are international grandmasters, and one, I think, remained international master. So it was kind of all these young guys there. So for me, it started suddenly very, very intensive. And, I had basically to change many, many things, to do a lot of adjustments, because I was at that time professional player. And of course, very quickly, I realized that all my knowledge of Grandmaster, it's absolutely not enough. It was maybe enough for a couple of sessions, but not more than that. And I realized that I have to start working on my material, prepare for the sessions, do all kind of work that I never done before. And I remember I took it very seriously. So I decided at that time, of course, when you only start coaching career, you still don't have so many students. So nobody even knows that you're coaching. And so I decided to share. So like the time I have my students, I spend my time with them. The time I'm free, I'm all the time working on my material. So that is how it's all started. And actually, it's the same way going 20 years later. So that is short introduction.
Very interesting. So let's dive in maybe in a little bit different direction, and let's talk about something that's very global now. How has working on chess evolved over the years, especially with computers becoming such a central part of the game? How has this changed, let's say, players' creativity in their understanding at the board?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, because there's lots of debates about this, like how computer influence our life, because chess is not like standalone. It's of course part of life. I even always, I rephrasing a lot of things. In general, I'm kind of person, I need some frame, and then I'm creating. So, and that is what happened with static balance to become strategic balance later, and many things like that. But I always say, I'm rephrasing Kasparov. He wrote a book where he said that life imitates chess, but I rephrase it saying that chess imitates life. So to me, to my understanding, much more to the point, because of course life is more complex than chess, and in best case, chess can imitate life, not the other way around. Though you can make some experiments in chess and later see how it goes in life. Anyway, with other words, talking about computers and their involvement and in general the modern chess, I can tell you when I started and my training methods, my coach was Abramovich Kasin from. He was at that time living in Moscow. He had many. He was himself the famous correspondence player, 11-time Olympic champion. And he had many famous students, among them Evgeny Bareyev, Gulko, some strong women grandmasters, I think like Yaslenia Levitin, I don't remember exactly, already Avsharumova, and some other ones. So I started like this in the Pioneer Palace, and I remember that our first steps when we were studying opening theory, our coach Abram Hazin, he was actually very advanced because he needed a lot because he was playing correspondent chess. At that time you didn't have computers, so you had to analyze all by yourself. Maybe, by the way, that all these hours and days and months that we spent at analyzing his games that he was playing in correspondent gave me this analytical background. That is very possible. You know, he had this, he was cutting all kind of from newspapers, from magazines, all these, you know, cards with games. And that is how, for example, you would like to play some new variation. You would have to get his 100 cards, and then you would study them, put it on chessboard. The whole process was extremely slow. You know, when I remember to pick up to play a new line, you would spend probably a month. And those days you spend probably not even a day. And that is, of course, a huge difference. I can tell you that in my understanding, the coming of computer is kind of, at least, you know, there are lots of discussion, of course, about this. Some people say that computers, they negatively influence creativity, or you kind of, you don't train your brain, whatever it is. But I think it's not exactly true. I think it's simply just different. It's just different, and it's true that maybe you need some different qualities in those days to become a good player, comparable to maybe 10, 20 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, because all is developing very fast, and you always have to follow the trends, because if you actually don't, and you try, you know, to hold to some kind of wisdom of the past, that is of course nice in theory, but in practice you basically you stay behind and you just not follow anymore. So that is most of the time how it happens. So for me, I see that development of coming of computers in our life, it changed dramatically everything. First of all, we all got equal access to the information to start with. I can tell you, when I was a young player or even already young professional, for example, I knew that I didn't have access to the big databases. At that time, it didn't exist, ChessBase and everything. So you had all these cards, and some others, they had some bigger libraries. And so it was all very selective. So that is what changed. So everybody has now equal terms. Also, of course, it changed dramatically the understanding of the game, because, you know, the classical chess education, it's a lot about, let's say, strategic elements and everything. And we kind of hear the word dynamics. And what computers showed us, it's actually, it showed us what dynamic is. Basically, it's concrete play, the concrete approach and timing. And all this, you know, we were very slow in trying to grasp here and there and learning it on our own experience exclusively. And that was very slow process. And of course, those days, it's completely different. Of course, you can argue that because we're using a lot of computers, it's of course less space that we think by ourselves. But this is also a little bit, it's not exactly also how it should be. It depends how you build your training process. So because you can always find the way where you can, of course, practice, and where you're on your own without any computer help or whatever it is. But in overall, I see that computers, they showed the depth of the game, At the same time, of course, they showed some things maybe we don't like to see. Like, although we knew it also before the computers, that basically chess is, of course, has very drawish tendencies. But since we all not perfect and never will be, there will be always chess. You know, even if people say that one day computer will solve the game, it will be just on theoretical level. On practical level, it will never have any impact because, of course, we don't have all the memory, all the computer stamina, which he doesn't even need, and psychology, whatever it is. So it will always remain a human. Let's say that we have cars or bicycles. Nobody canceled yet the running on 100-meter, 200-meter, 400-meter barriers, no barriers, and so on. So it's the same story here too. So that is how I see. So for me, I don't see negative. Also, the computers helped us, of course, to bring chess to the wider audience. I mean, you know, in my time, long time back, so who could live from chess? It could be only the top professionals, maybe the top 10, maybe a few coaches, that's it. Those days, with all the information, all the computers, so you have much wider and broader chess community. It's not only anymore chess professionals, it's kind of streamers, it's like all kind of possible directions. So I find it fascinating. So we have to be happy that computers are there instead of complaining. But even those days, I still hear this, that maybe computers, they have negative impact. It's kind of, it depends how you see it. So on one hand, yes, you have, of course, to pay attention, to train your brain constantly. But for this, you have exercises, you can practice, you have practical games. So it's not like you need to spend all your time with computer, of course. But at the same time, for analysis, for understanding the depth of a game, it's invaluable. And I'm only thinking it had the positive impact on everything.
Very interesting. Thank you. And the next question, it will be another topic. In your view, what is true chess talent? And how important are the all other factors, such as, let's say, physical condition, diets, or player's lifestyle?
Yeah, that is always interesting question, and of course, especially for the parents, what's the true chess talent and how to identify it, and are my kids qualified for that or not? You know, it is a very complex question about the talent because it is not even clear what exactly people mean when they talk about talent. You know, I recently had some podcast and I was asked the same kind of question, but it was specifically towards one of my long-term student, Fabiano Caruana. We worked like many years. Initially it was 5 years, then we had a break, then another 2 years. So like in total, like maybe 7 years. So I know him, of course, very well. And there was always a discussion about many people were saying like, despite Fabiano is a top player, but maybe the talent is not there. Like there were even some grandmasters who would go ahead saying like he's the least talented of all, despite more or less all his career he's in top chess. So which was surprising to hear. And so it's very, very unclear what's the definition of talent because, you know, some people associate talent with, let's say, some, for example, sharp tactical skills or memory or maybe some other things. But in reality, you know, talent is a combination of everything. Because, for example, for me, one of the biggest talents I would name is the ability to concentrate. So, and the ability to keep the high level of motivation because it's kind of comes together at the end. And that is maybe the starting point when you can really be focused, when you can be highly motivated and really stay like this consistent and for a long time. So which of course means that you have also some other qualities because you see, it's like chess talent or some other talent. It's very specific because you understand being talented or having some qualities which you need for chess. Maybe the same qualities will be absolutely not enough if you are a surgeon or you're a doctor or whatever, you're working in some scientific field. So it is all very, very relative. So for chess, of course, what is traditional? Yes, well, you should have some memory, but at the same time, you have many examples of very, very strong players which didn't have a good memory and nevertheless they were dominating the field. So that is also, you see, or for example, some people estimating, they say, well, you see the real talent in blitz because you play intuitively and it's sort of your intuition versus knowledge, yeah? And it's also not correct because for me, what's the intuition? Intuition, it's combination of knowledge and practical experience. So it's not just some kind of, gift from above, yeah? So it is all, anyway, no matter what kind of talent you have, if you don't develop it, and you're not at the right place where this talent apply, you will never realize it. That is one of the things. And yes, indeed, yes, you need some memory, you need good nerve system, you need to be psychologically stable, but at the same time, you have many examples, then those qualities are not respected, but some others, for example, in a stronger form. So this is also difficult to say. And one of the things is that, like I mentioned briefly, and by the way, soon it's coming finally, working on this already half a year, the course of strategic balance. Okay, the first part, but it's already big material anyway. So it will be very interesting for everyone. There you will have some insight on what we talk about this. But there you have, for example, many difficult exercises, yeah, and it's not like exercises, but it's like decision making. Well, you have really to work hard. Let's say it's difficult. You can do it with any level, in fact, and that is not even the point, because what counts is not to find the exercise, but the process, yeah, because that is where you train, in the process, not just because you found this or that solution. So that is important. And I had many players who went through along grandmasters. It's over 120, and of course it started in 2005 until it's already over the period of 20 years. I can tell you that it was very interesting because I had many top players, current top players who went through, also many young players, the level 2250, 2300. So it's like total mix, yeah. And it was very interesting to see how it was happening. And very often players which were not even close to the top, not even sometimes grandmasters, some specific things they could do better than, for example, some absolute top player like Fabiano Caruana, number 2, or Anish Giri at some point, number 3, or whatever. Some players with over 2800, like Timur Rajabov, so in his best. What I mean that. And yet, there were top players which remained, and those players, despite having sometimes sparkling kind of flash talents in certain things that you could see, still they would not succeed, for example, to go through and to become really strong players. So that is why it is combination. So, but one of the key points, I think, for me personally, what I see immediately in the student, it's the ability to concentrate and the very high motivation. Those two, because this is, and the rest you can walk out. Of course, there will be some shortcomings here and there, but nobody is perfect. Also, Magnus Carlsen is not perfect, of course, and he has many flaws, and he's the same like everyone in chess understanding and everything. It's a famous thing, like the top players, they play the game, and then on the way to the press conference, they're asking the coaches or seconds, by the way, tell me what was the game? Because they expect computer to say, so like, did I have a good position? Did I have winning position? Or it was not? So it shows that it's like this, like you have, of course, the strong players, but then you have this ideal level and there is nobody even close. So that's why, so that is what I can tell about talent. So for me, main talent, it's someone who is highly motivated, willing to work hard, and dedicated. And all the rest, you can always, it's possible always with coaching, with overtime, with processing, you can achieve very good results. Of course, what would you pay a lot attention in the training process, it's processing. Because what I understood over the years is that you give the knowledge, but you give this knowledge to different students. And some of them, they take advantage of it in much higher degree than others. And that is maybe also some kind of talent, you could say, the processing, how fast you may process things, and that is important, of course. But even this, eventually, if you pay attention in a training process, you can also improve. So basically, well, somebody who is ready for hard work, that is a very, very important talent, I think.
Very good points. Okay, and let's go another direction. We often talk about chess work itself, but from your experience, what would an ideal working day for a player look like? And what should coaches, parents, or players focus on most?
Yeah, that's also, of course, very important question. And let's break it down. First of all, absolutely, chess, it's not only chess. That should be clear from the very beginning. You have to combine, first of all, if you talk about young players, they have school obligations, they have other things, they need activity, they need to do some sports. So it's already a complex world where you have to be very organized and to find time for everything, which is not easy at all. And one of the things I would say that clearly when you talk about the process to become a good player, it's not enough just to focus on chess. You have to focus on your physical condition, absolutely. So you need to do some sports or physical activity, whatever it is, or relaxation. So it's already everybody, you can do yoga, you can do something else. So it's already everyone does let's say it is possible all kind of directions. In that sense, you need, of course, to be well organized. So it means that you must have routine. Routine is very important. So, of course, you have examples. You can tell me like, yes, but this player, look, he has absolutely zero routine. He's sleeping, missing breakfasts, and still playing well the tournaments. But, I always say, yes, this player, he achieved a lot, even if he was not perfect in his schedule or doing what we recommend. But if you would take the same player and maybe you would get him the routine, you would get him this schedule, you would get him all these kind of things, what we put an accent on, which are important, maybe this player would be not 2750, but maybe he would be world champion, for example. You understand? So you have always to see exact the same player doing this way or doing that way. And that's, of course, you cannot compare. So you cannot say like this, that I'm doing like this and someone else is doing like this, I remember from my students, also from the top ones, when I would tell them we have to do this more and more, they would say, but look at Magnus Carlsen, sometimes he does nothing. And sometimes he even takes a beer with his friends, And I was telling them, okay, but if you want to be like Magnus Carlsen, then in January, when there is vacancy tournament, you just go and you swim in the North Sea. Why not? And then, so already you have less people who want to be like Magnus Carlsen. So that is what I'm trying to say. So you cannot compare it like this. So so talking about ideal schedule. So definitely you have to find time for chess. So, but it doesn't mean that you have to work 10 hours a day chess, of course. It will bring absolutely nothing and it will be inefficient because you have to understand that efficiency, this is what counts and not hours. Of course, it's better to do, let's say, 4 hours than to do nothing at all. But if those 4 hours, for example, you're not focused or you're distracted, or for some other reason you do something at the same time, you see some players, they put on one side of computer, they put some position, they put engine on it, for example, or they're analyzing it, and at the same time they look in the news. So already efficiency is extremely low, and you don't need to be there 4 hours. You can do better 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, for example, or 2 hours. Okay, for me, 2 hours, it's a kind of standard session what I do with my students. And honestly, I think that you cannot concentrate longer than that at all. So, but all what is not low concentration, it's low processing and low efficiency. So processing, that is what counts. You can process material and knowledge only when you're focused. If you're not focused, there is no chance you're going to process anything. And what is, to process, it's also not enough. You have to refresh it. Because even processed knowledge, which sometimes, you can ask any grandmaster there or strong player, they will know sudden things and they will not, they processed it so well that they don't need even to repeat it ever again. But most of the, so there will be some base of those kind of things. But most of the time, people tend to forget absolutely everything. Simply the difference is the things that you processed, you can recover much faster. Things that you didn't process, you will forget, and there will be very difficult recovery as well. So what you have to put accent in the processing. But for the processing, first of all, you need to be rested. You need to be in a good physical shape. So it means automatically that you need a good sleep, you need a routine. So for example, let's put ideal day of chess player, how I would see. Let's say you take 2 hours maybe on something that, let's say, you do some preparation, opening preparation, I call it analytical work, because, I disagree with people who call it opening. I say it's analytical work. Simply, it's the most efficient way. Chess is huge. You can do whatever you want. But the point is you have to see always what's the most efficient combination. Yeah. And one of the things which everyone needs, it's to do some analytical work, because through analysis, of course, you get in the knowledge. And that is important in your general progress. Yeah. For example, you do a couple of hours working on your, let's say, on your lines. You check your recent games where you were struggling, whatever it is. So let's say 2 hours you spend on this. Then you need about 1-2 hours. I call it like practicing. This is actually exactly where use like in analytical work you rely a lot on computer, but still when you're focused you can process it better, so you can ask questions. You have always not to let computer lead you, but you have to try to ask questions. So basically curiosity has to be your driving force. So always, and why this and why that? So always question. When you have no question, it means that it's not good. It means that you're not focused, because when you're focused, you have a lot of questions, because of course your feeling of danger is much higher. So all these kind of things. So of course, I'm talking a little bit more for advanced player, let's say. Yeah. So, but already, knowing what doing advanced player, I'm not talking about grandmasters. I'm already simply some kind of more advanced player, maybe already starting from the level 2200, something like that. Yeah. So already you, anyway, you need to know what later will be required. So you're trying to adjust already from the beginning. So then you need definitely always these couple of hours. You can solve positions, you can play training games. So basically you do all where you hardly use, let's say, the engine, and you need to do workout by yourself. Yeah. Then that's it for chess. I don't think you have to do more than this. So like 4 hours, it would be for me the big max. And then, of course, in your routine has to be, let's not forget that we need also the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it also takes time. You need time to actually to have some calm when you kind of, your metabolism is taking place. Then you definitely need time for, let's say, doing some sports, or the minimum, let's say, working outside, and it has to be really a dedicated time for that. I'm not talking now about, let's say, when you have a school day. I'm talking about just the day if, let's say, you have, let's say, holidays, and you try and you have 10 days of holidays, and you're trying to do something good out of it, and you want to dedicate it to, let's say, chess. So, and then, of course, you have to watch out already from the very beginning, like what you do good in chess, it will be later good in life as well. So of course, having routine, it's always good. Having some clear planning, it's always good. trying to eat healthy from the very beginning and explaining that to your children, for example, about the food and what can be good. You can explain, like, for example, it's not good to eat something too heavy before the game because, or right before the game, but you need time before. So all these kind of things, which basically are good for your each day life, they're also, of course, good for chess. So that is also important part. And then, of course, you must have some time to avoid all this kind of, situation of burnout. You never have to force things. If, for example, your child is not feeling like, let's say, doing chess today, it doesn't matter. It can be replaced by something else. For example, he can play some games or whatever it is, or maybe not related to chess at all. So it's not a matter of, let's say, constantly putting pressure, because it will only lead to some kind of burnout, and it will have the opposite result. So what you're thinking you're achieving now, you will lose somewhere else. So you have to be, but maybe Ramesh will even explain you more the Indian philosophy. So about this. Anyway, the point is that don't put pressure, because the thing is that chess, it's already pretty much a stressful game. And from the very beginning, you have to understand that you need to work on improving nerve system. And that is, of course, automatically no pressure. I can tell you that many, many years ago, I was talking with the father of Magnus Carlsen, with Henrik. And I was asking him things like this, especially when I started my coaching career. And I was curious, of course, about how all this working, and I was asking him many questions. And at that time, for me personally, I wasn't even paying so much attention, because it came all later that I started to understand that food matters, that the sport matters. Sport matters, by the way, it's even recent. So like a couple of years ago, because of course I would always say to my student that sport matters, but I didn't realize it fully, So I understood that you need really to do some exercise, not simply, just making 10,000 steps or something. That's not enough. So you have really to do some exercise, because it makes you feel much better, much more confident, and that translates into the game 100%. So that is important. But anyway, so going back to Magnus Carlsen, and I asked him how was it happening, and he told me, from the very, very beginning, we understood because he was himself already a chess player, so he knew what means losing the game, how do you feel, so it matters too. And he said that we understood right away that nerve system for the chess player is extremely important. And we were trying to absolutely put no pressure at all on Magnus. Like, he would basically do more or less whatever he would do. Of course, he would try to give him his own personal example. That is a good thing to do. Or sometimes maybe light kind of calling to order or whatever it is. That was there, but no pressure. And that is important. Of course, sometimes he said it had drawbacks, later in life, because Magnus became very independent. And sometimes he was taking his decisions like this because he never had pressure. So it was sometimes difficult to handle sudden situations. Like, for example, they could be working on some kind of sponsorship deal, and Magnus suddenly would come and say, well, I just don't feel like meeting today with anyone, and then it would be just a lost deal. So these things happen too, but in overall, you win. So it is always, you have to see the whole picture. Because, by the way, in strategic balance, one of my main points, I always say chess imitates life, and don't take things out of context. Yeah. So it's one of the main things we use for chess, but it's the same in life, of course. You have to see everything in the context, and the context has to be the whole situation, or not some specific moment or specific situation. So that is what I would say. So my ideal day, it's where you have some chess, but you also have some kind of physical activity, when you have some times that you can have rest. And of course, if you have, let's say, school, and you have some other obligations, you have to mitigate. So you take some part maybe from chess, but you keep the physical activity and all the rest. So, and of course, sleep is very important. So you have basically, what we know more and more about healthy life, let's say those days. Yeah, it's a kind of trend. And of course, as we said before, we have to follow trends, and the same we apply for chess. So that is how I would say would be my ideal day. So don't overdo chess. Don't think like you have to say to your child, you have to do this and this and this, and each day, that there is absolutely no rest. It will just be some kind of burnout and nothing good out of it. So it has to be like, harmoniously. Yeah, it has to understand very clear that let's say becoming a good player, it's not just one-time action, it's not an action, it's just a process. It's a long process where you have to be very patient, and be ready that sometimes there will be tough periods, that it can be underperforming everywhere, and not only in one tournament, even in 3 tournaments, even half a year, you understand? But that is the process. So, and then it will be the better period. So, but you have to be patient, because in chess it's very slow. You have to understand that what you do today, it absolutely doesn't mean that you do it for the result tomorrow. Very often, what you do today, you will take advantage of it maybe 2 years later or 3 years later. That is how it is, I explain very often to my students, because already, like I had few generations of players which passed through in front of my eyes, and I can see, of course, how many things are working. And I tell them sometimes, I'm telling you that you have maybe better do this and that, but I cannot prove it, But I can tell you that you will know result anyway only in 2-3 years. Whatever we say to do, whatever you will do it right or whatever you will do it wrong. You can do very wrong things and have very good results, but it will be a temporary effect. And later, maybe 3 years ago, suddenly you will get to the situation when you are nearly at the dead end and you don't even know how to get out of this situation. So it doesn't mean anything. So if you're planning for the long term and it's a long-term process, then also act this way.
I don't know if you can see the audience, Mr. Chuchelov, but it's very nice seeing that some of the audience is taking notes of what you're saying. So, my final question, and maybe then we can move on if the audience have some questions, because I also have like individual question for you. But okay, the final question is, we have heard a lot about your course, Strategic Balance. You mentioned it before. Was this like a planned project from the start, or it just grew naturally over time from your experience?
Well, no, it was absolutely not, like I was, let's say, sitting on the bank and suddenly, Apple fall and I had an idea, let's do strategic balance. No, it was not like this. So it was from inside of the process. Actually, like I said, I mentioned it previously in 2001, I met Iosif Dorfman. He's also a famous trainer. And already at that time, he was coaching Bakro, I think, or even it was the period even when they stopped working. But no matter, he was already in that coaching business. And he had this interesting idea at that time for me, which called Static Balance. So later he wrote a book, Method in Chess. So that is how it started for him. For me, it started extremely unexpectedly. During this tournament in 2001, we had some talks and he was explaining me this, but chess players are very skeptical. So I was asking a lot of questions, but you're saying that this is the rule, but if I do like this, so it was not, ringing a bell. And 3-4 years later, by the way, talking about the processing and how things are happening, yeah, I got some new book of Mark Dvoretsky. And I was just going through this because already I started to do more coaching, and I was looking, maybe I could find some kind of interesting example to share with my students. Already at that time, I understood that there will be no easy life because all the examples in books, most of them are completely wrong because computer didn't exist, they didn't check it, there were many, many mistakes. And I understood very fast that I will need to work on my own to find these examples. And considering that I was very, very picky to my examples, sometimes I would spend to find one position like a week working like 7-8 hours a day, just for one position. So, and like this, it happened. And so I was going through the book of Mark Dvoretsky, and suddenly I saw some position which attracted my attention because it was also something interesting for my own chess understanding. And then I saw the explanation Dvoretsky was giving. So he was, of course, at that time the top coach, and he was very interesting. When I was young, I even attended his coaching for the few times, and he was very deep. I mean, analyzing all the time. At that time, still no computers, all his life basically, and he was always ready for discussion, for innovation, whatever. And he was analyzing, and then he gave some explanation, and it didn't convince me at all. It sounded to me very complex and unclear. And suddenly, I remembered all my discussions with Dorfman about his static balance, and I realized that, wait a second, but if I apply this rule, what he told me here, I can actually explain why this is the best move. And this is how it started, and it was easy explanation because like you apply this, and instead of big explanation of Mark Dvoretsky based on old school considerations, you just do this, and it's like a formula, and then you explain it much more easy, and that is how it started. And later, of course, I started to apply this method. Then I saw shortcomings. I started to change it, and changing. It was all the time evolving. Each year, it was something new. And in 2015, so like 10 years later, it was simply big revolution that again, through this inside experience, one day, because it's like how to tell you, you see sudden things happening because you work on chess all the time. You have to see different games. You all the time asking, you're working, of course, with computer, which showing you the absolute, let's say, truth very often about the positions. You can go very deep in analytical work. And then, you start to realize, oh, but it's actually here, it's like this, and here it's like this, and there it's like this. So it looks like a rule, and then you realize that it's a rule, you start applying it, that you realize it's actually working like nearly everywhere. And then that is how, it was happening. So it was inside process. And honestly, from static balance in the modern version that I even call it strategy, I called at some point I had to change the name because it stayed nothing simply from the static balance. It got even the opposite at some point, nearly all. And then it got the strategic balance, but even strategic balance was going through some revolution. That one happened in 2015. That was even funny because I was working with Anish Giri, and they all grown on that somehow, Anish and Fabiano. But with Fabiano, it continued later. But Anish, I stopped working with him end of 2013, and we started only end of 2017. And very often I told him, Anish, I'm sorry, but you missed the revolution, and actually changes few things. And he made a joke even in our podcast, in our recording, because he is part of this course also. I invited him for a few hours. And he said that for someone who got it wrong, I did not so bad, yeah? Because anyway, he became a top player. And so that is how it was happening. And then it was another one when these neuron networks, they allowed us even deeper to look into the truth in chess and all this. So the version was him. But I think now those days, that is why I decided that maybe it's time to really to go public. Although that was not my plan, but my friends convinced me that, well, why are you waiting till you retire? Why not to do it now? And then so I had this idea to keep it exclusive for some reasons, but then I realized it makes no sense. And that is what I decided to do. And now it's because it's also got to some kind of final version. So that is how it was, and that is what soon it will be. And so there will be a new platform called knowhowchess.com, and it's still not there, so don't Google. we are reading it, and so there will be the course.
Yeah, okay, I think we can proceed. So, Mr. Chuchelov, as you mentioned before, no one and nothing is perfect. So let's continue.
Yes, I hope we still all remember the subject, yeah?
Yes, we do. Of course we do. Okay, so let's start with the questions from the audience, and then I will proceed with my personal questions. Let's start from here. Can you please pass the microphone?
Thank you very much. Please, how to motivate young talents? It's very difficult because hard work is not compatible with the motivation. It's very difficult. 4 hours a day, children, 10 years, 8 years, 9 years. It's complicated. Maybe even in starts it's okay, but after, with the months of hard work, motivation will be a real problem, a real challenge. Thank you.
Okay, so you see, this is the field, the very young players. Yeah, you're talking about 8, 9 years. That is, I think Ramesh is more expert in that field. So, yeah, motivation, of course, it's very important factor. But you know, this is not only for the young players or young kids. It's like for everyone. This is the it's one of the very, very important actually subject to talk about. I can tell you that when I started working with Fabiano, even when he was already, I think, 2650 player, grandmaster or something like that, around this rating. He had a period when exactly when we started working, that absolutely lack of motivation, and he kind of missed a little bit probably on childhood. With other words, it was maybe also teenager kind of years, because I think he was quite young at that time. So, but you know, when we started working on our sessions, he was simply playing computer games and was doing it more or less all the way, you know. And of course he was kind of, you know, sort of smart. And each time when I realized something is strange, and each time I would ask him some question, he would try to make it up, you know, like he was falling all the way. But that I understood that something is wrong there. And I remember that I talked to his parents, and I told them that, you know, you're probably thinking that when Fabiano is in his room, like he's making chess, but he's not making chess. He's not doing actually anything at all. And you like it or not, you have to do more training face to face, because otherwise he will not do it anything at all, because I could see that more or less where we left it, we were picking up exactly where we have left it, you know. So, and one of my advices at that time was, for example, to go simply all tournaments in a row. And like this, sort of being in a tournament, you kind of forced to play, to prepare for the game, to do something. And this was the way to sort of you drown him into this chess thing back. And actually it worked out, because we had a year, like he played more or less 150 games. I went with him to all the tournaments, so it was like non-stop thing, and he had kind of no way out. So it was not like forced, but at the same time, you know, like it was sort of like a plan. But he didn't realize that it was a plan. He was thinking simply that there is just this tournament, that tournament. But that was actually the part of the plan, to simply to keep him all the time busy there. And that is how it worked. Of course, for kids, it's a little bit different. I think here you have to, what you can do, you can also probably do, they like to play in general. So maybe they like less to study, but more to play. So in general, to play, everyone is ready. You know, if you're a chess player, they all like to play. So maybe to let them play tournament. You know, in my case, I can tell you when I was a kid. So I was going to this so-called Pioneer Palace in Moscow, and we had a group. And I remember I liked very much to take part in all kind of simultaneous exhibitions. So we had the group. The group is important, to be part of the group. It's more important. For example, you know, those days, very often you have to sort of walk. You don't have this kind of group training, yeah, and you try to do it individual. And that is, of course, a little bit. It can be less easy to motivate the child. So, of course, in the group, having the coach, and that they have some competition with each other, that is what is making it, So I would advise clearly in the beginning, specifically to see if you can go to some kind of, that he could be part of the group, and more or less there that they would have the tournaments and they would have some kind of concurrence and stuff like this. And that is sort of motivating them to be better. So that is more efficient than that he's doing by himself or you trying to help him. I think that it's better to be part of the group at the beginning. And in general, I'll be honest with you, especially modern chess, it became so complex that it's even a little bit too much for just one person. And I can tell you that many players that I work with, I always advise to work with someone else. And I say, if you can work with the coach, good. If you cannot afford it, for example, try to find the partner who is also interested to work and try to do things together. Maybe you will lose some time on some kind of conversations, whatever it is, but at the same time, there will be always some kind of stimulation. And so time to time, you can check it with the coach then. So it's kind of, I find that it's in general more stimulating and more efficient when you work with someone, but it doesn't have to be many people. So just one-to-one. And when they're kids, it's good to have a big group. It doesn't matter. It's not a problem. So that is more or less what I can tell.
Thank you. Vladimir, with COVID-19, during COVID-19 and after COVID-19, we saw a lot of increase in online meetings and obviously online coaching. And I know a lot of coaches prefer online coaching because it's convenient for them. You don't have to leave your house and then you can stick to the time. You don't have to travel and so on and so on. But what would you say is more effective between online and face-to-face training? So if you have this one child that you have to make a superstar and then you choose whether it's online or face-to-face, which one would you go with?
Okay, so you see, this is how we have our conference right now. Otherwise, I would be also in earthquake with you. So that is how it works. You can see that I heard a lot about this. One thing I can tell you that, okay, face-to-face, it's not bad, but I don't think that online it's so much harming or damaging. It's not only for the convenience of the coach, it's also for the convenience of everyone. It also cuts for parents. It's important. They also you have to allocate some budget and everything. So it cuts the budget, of course, significantly also. And you don't have logistics. So it's kind of very convenient for everyone, not only just for the coach, but in general. And also, I think that what is important that when you do, let's say the video, that when you make online coaching, it has to be, of course, with video. That is important. So it has to be the video. I can tell you that when I started coaching, at that time, it was all not very advanced. It was only coming in, all this kind of, that you can do the video call and do it online and everything. And of course, initially, I remember, it was like, we were not even so open for, video calls, that somebody sees you. It was a little bit, unusual thing, yeah. I remember that the first games I had to play when they started translated online, it was like new at that time. So I was very nervous because I was imagining that all the world is watching my moves, and how am I going to play? Like if I make a mistake, everybody will know it immediately, So, so it was not yet part of the culture, but I think those days, of course, it became the part of the culture. So we're making always video calls. So I think that you just have to follow the trends and go with the video because I don't see any wrong with this. So for me, it is without logistic, without anything. And let's say you are in one part of the world, someone else in some other part of the world, you communicate, you put, but video is important. Initially, when I was starting, I was doing it without video. Then I realized that actually with video, it's much more important. So that is finally, you keep more focus and so it's like more communication. So exactly like we discuss now things. So I think it's absolutely, don't worry about that. Just find the right coach and all is fine. So you can do it on video.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? Oh, can my colleague please pass the microphones?
please, how to transform passive learning by watching video lessons, for example, to active one, maybe by repetition, but it's more difficult. It's very difficult. We saw, for example, chess lesson 1 hour, for example, and in the end, maybe we must repeat again and again to transform. What's the process to transform passive learning on watching to active one, to be efficient? Thank you.
Yeah, that is actually very good question, because especially, it's my recent thing since 2-3 years that I suddenly realized, because, it is important sometimes intuitively you feel certain things, but you can explain them well. And of course, I had all these kind of situations when you work with someone and one is making progress, another student doesn't, and then at some point you ask questions like, why don't we make progress? And you couldn't like intuitively you feel something, but you couldn't express it by words. And of course, I got this understanding, and now I can explain it very easily. It's actually all about processing, yeah. And exactly what this is your question, like how to process. Like you get the knowledge. So you get it, for example, from video, but it's not like exclusively like it's a video or it's face-to-face or you simply have a training. It's like, it's more about the student learning to process the knowledge he gets, you see? So that is the main question. And you say there is a lot of repetition. Yes, indeed, there is a lot of repetition, but there is nothing wrong with repetition, It's like, it's normal to have repetition, because basically we don't catch it. For example, we have some conversation right now, and I'm telling you some kind of ideas, some kind of advices, and you have an impression that you understand everything. But the truth is, it's not like this is working. It looks like everything is clear, but there will be one situation, most of the time it's practical situation, I call it experience, where suddenly you will realize much more clearly what we were talking about. There will be some kind of episode, you understand? Like I said something, now you think, yeah, I understood, but it didn't give you actually much more information. But the truth is, there will be some situation where suddenly you will think, oh, wait a second, but that is actually what it meant when we talked about this. So this is why, yes, of course, the video lessons, it depends what kind of lessons, how they structured, you see. So for example, in our course, we tried, it's complicated course. It's actually, we recorded like 26 hours. In general, the strategic balance is big. Yeah, those days it goes nearly till 100 hours, but we recorded only 26. But from this 26, you can easily make 50 or 60. Because if you start stopping and start thinking by yourself and all kind of things, yeah. But I agree, you need assistance, just like this, to give a lesson to your child and just watch the lesson and do something. It's absolutely not much information. So it has to be always pointed where to pay attention, what to point out. Let's put it on the board. Let's discuss. It's a slow process. It's a slow process, but that's normal. It's, like, we need to process, and very often we do it even when we do something wrong. For example, the practical experience, nothing wrong with being wrong, let's say, that is important for everyone to understand. That's why you don't have to be afraid to make some mistake. You better do from 10 8 things that will be maybe working and 2 will be not working than to do just one thing right. That is, of course, it can be sometimes crucial, but still, the life experience matters. So I would, of course, you need assistance. That's why you need coaches or you need parents who can assist if the children very young. It's all about processing. That is what you have to understand. The processing is the main part. Knowledge is important, of course, what kind of quality of knowledge, but even the best knowledge in the world, if it's not processed knowledge, it doesn't matter. So that is why it is crucial where you put your accent. So you observe your child, you see how he's processing better. Some processing better on praxis, some literally from listening, some others something else, For example, I can give you a funny example. I was working with Sovesley. He's one of the top players in the world already for a decade at least. and of course, very famous, very strong player. And it was interesting because he was kind of unlike many others who had coaches and all kind of support. He was doing everything on his own. Like him, the computer, that's it, the engine. So computer was giving the role of information. At the same time, engine was giving the role of somebody helping him to understand things. Yeah. And like this, he was from the very beginning. I remember him even very, very young. By the way, Praggnanandhaa, I also remember very young. I remember that first time I saw him, I think it was in Greece. There was some kind of youth event. He was very young. And I remember he was making moves very fast. And I immediately paid attention that I said even to someone, when maybe this guy is going to be good later. I didn't even check what he was doing, how he was playing, who he was. But it gave me the impression that there was a lot of energy, a lot of, so later when I saw his name, I was not surprised. But anyway, what I was trying to say is that, yes, so you need to put a lot of effort on the processing. So just see how it goes, see what's the best, and understand that no matter what, always in the practical experience is necessary. So that's why you need basically the coaches, or you have to be the parent behind. So by themselves, not easy to learn.
Thank you very much. And we have one last question from the audience, and then the last question from my side. Please pass the microphone.
Yes, sir. I just have a quick question to ask you. It seems to me that people who make it to the title, they dedicate a lot of time, much more than 3 or 4 hours a day. Like Caruana, he dropped off high school to focus on chess. And I talked to some grandmasters before in the US. They say they study a lot of time. Our kids have about 7 hours from the time they come home until the time to go to bed. Like my daughter in 6th grade, she studies about 4 hours a day and she's doing pretty well. But as she goes to the 7th, 8th, and 10th grade, she will not be able to find those 4 hours. It's just impossible because she will have more homework, math, and many other things. So is it the kids who really make it are the ones who make the title by the time they're 12, 13, or 14, and after that there is no way? I mean, I see a lot of kids making it early now, at 14, because they don't have much responsibilities yet. But as they go to college or high school, there is no way to dedicate the time that's required to make it. Well, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I understand, of course, what you say. It's clear that, let's say, to work 8 hours, it's better than 1, maybe, even if they're not efficient. But nevertheless, it's not exactly like that. Yes, talking about Caruana, or I remember even Anish Giri, for example, there are many examples also of top players, like Vasily Graf. He simply graduated university, I think, for 5 years. Anish Giri didn't drop out. He didn't go to university. There was a big discussion, I remember, with his parents. I was telling them that it's not a good idea. It would be an absolutely waste of his time, that he needs to be professional because he has really a chance to be on the top. And they didn't like my point of view. And I told them, I hardly advise it to any of my students. Most of the students I advise to study the contrary. And that's the only it's the only case, because I could see that he could become a top player. And that's what happened, actually. But so the thing is that, yes, well, the stories about students studying each day 8 hours, it's also, I wouldn't trust them so much. This is not how it is. Also, I gave you example of Fabiano. Yes, he dropped out. That's true. But it's not like he dropped out. It's his parents took him out of school. But he was anyway doing some school. But it was, I don't know, I don't remember how it was, online or whatever it was. It was some school anyway he was doing. Okay, they were traveling a lot and he was playing a lot of tournaments and so on. But it doesn't mean that he was working like each day, 8 hours a day, whatever it is. Yes, indeed, he had from the very beginning. I remember the setup they had. They had always a coach who was basically working with him full time, which means like more or less through the year. It doesn't mean that each day they were working 6 or 7 or whatever hours a day, but they were doing some training camps, let's say, which would last maybe 10 days or whatever it is. And then maybe they would do online, or maybe it was more coaching in that sense, but he was also playing a lot. It was a lot more basically he was spending more time on playing than coaching, I think. So I'm not sure that it was just because he was all the time doing chess. And I said, he was also doing other things like playing computer games and everything. So it's not only, it's kind of interesting. Like, for example, Fabiano, I even said recently, everyone says that he's such a hard worker and no talent, but hard worker. But, it's not exactly how it is, yeah? Hard worker relatively, when he had a goal, when he knew, for example, that he needs to perform or he needs some important event or whatever it is, he would maybe pull together and try to work on chess, but other time he wouldn't do anything, And even those days, it's exactly the same. After, so it looks like one can think that he does work all the time on chess to be number 2 or 3. But it's not like this. It's like when he has some goal, like for example, candidates or whatever it is there, yes, he structures the camps and everything, and he tries to do his best, but other time, not really. So with other words, for me, you don't have to drop out of school, because you see, it has to be, first of all, you have to understand that to become the top player, the really top, there are few. So that's why they're top players, right? So you have maybe 5 to, let's say, 10 positions, maybe 15, 20, but it's an entire world, right? So it's already very difficult to come there to start with. And second, it's not necessarily because you drop out of school or you do more that it will happen, you see? So you have to be, it's like it happens from inside, it's like, they go, they play, they walk, they play, they organize themselves. That is important. So generally speaking, you have to do the way in the beginning, which also good for his general life. You understand? So it's like, okay, it will be great if he succeeds in chess, but if he doesn't, he has to take all this know-how from chess to his life. The organization, the structure, the routine, you understand? The dedication, the motivation. So all this is not supposed to be lost only because he didn't become some very strong player. So it has to be transformed into his other activities or whatever it is. So that's why you have to build the process where you kind of in win-win situation. And if suddenly at some point it will go really strong on chess, and that is not up to you, it's up to your child, obviously, if he gets this kind of extra motivation, extra dedication, and it will still be combined with certain qualities which are required in order to, let's say, to become a strong player, then you will see after. So with other words, don't make program for a long time, We say, like in strategic balance, I even go further than this, I say there is no plans, The plan is only possible when you have a clear strategic situation, and let's say opponent doesn't have the counterplay, then you have you can go on with your plan. Otherwise, you have to learn to react on different situations, and of course not to take things out of context. Like for example, you don't have to take chess out of context and do something specific for this. In the beginning, clearly you have to go both ways, and school and everything, simply organize better, learn to have routine, and try, of course, to appreciate, to learn that your children appreciate to learn that time matters, time important. So that is what I would be focusing in the beginning, and already later, if situation will be telling you that, well, maybe there is a time to make more effort, or it will be also coming from your child, then you will see how to deal with this.
Thank you. And the last question would be from me. I met Fabiano in May at Norway Chess, and we started discussing about emotional pressure and all that during the tournament when you're going really well. And I remember very good, correct me if I'm wrong with the year, in 2014, when Fabi got on Singfield Cup, it was 7 out of 7. Like a crazy streak. And my question was to him, I asked him, how did you keep your cool? Like, okay, I'm 7 out of 7, I have to keep it cool and continue. And he answered, I don't know. And I didn't get the answer to it. You were with him there? And can you please share how, when the tournament is going very good, how you can let's say, somehow keep away from that emotional pressure that you have and keep it cool and just continue the game?
Yeah, I remember very well this tournament. Of course, it was a big shock for everyone. First of all, for us, ourselves. This to say, I can tell you that it was very specific, all what happened, because of course I was coming back to the situation because it was clear to me that to repeat it will be nearly impossible because he did something beyond any, it was simply one of the best performance ever. I don't know if maybe there was some one or two in entire chess history which could compare to that. So because it was amazing simply to win game after game, he could actually do even more than that because he did 7 out of 7, but the 8th game, I think, against Carlsen, he was also winning, and he could nearly make 9 out of 10 or even more. So it was really amazing result. I remember also that it happened that, you remember I told you that very often what we work today is not necessarily will be seen tomorrow or after tomorrow, but maybe seen a few years later. That was exactly what happened in this tournament because we were working already with him, I think before that, more or less 3 or 4 years, maybe 3. It was the 4th year. And by coincidence, because of course you need the lucky stars, you know, that they come to the right place. By coincidence, all kind of positions he was getting, and it was analysis from different periods of time, completely different preparations. They were not even specifically for the games, which were in this tournament, all came together. So he got his positions, he was in excellent shape too. And I remember also that even myself, I was on a very high point, like, you know, like the round would start, and I would see the other games, and the father of Magnus, Henrik, would come to me and ask, so Vladimir, so tell me what's happening today. And I looked at the positions, I knew everything. You know, I knew that this is the line we analyzed there, this is going to be draw. This, he did this, of course, that was interesting idea, but we also checked it. So it was kind of also for me, I was on a very fantastic situation, like also having lots of knowledge, and probably that was kind of how it happened, yeah. And I remember, you know, the funny thing is that, of course, when he won first, it was good, but not special. Then he won second, it was still good. When he won third, already we started to wonder, like, what is this, yeah. But we kept on going to the same sushi restaurant, you know, just before the round. And so somehow, you know, chess players, they're a little bit superstitious. And we decided, okay, well, we have to go to the same restaurant all the time. So I can tell you, after he won all these games, so in going all this sushi, I didn't eat sushi for half a year, I think. I couldn't even look at them. But we had to bear this, you know, cross with us all the time, going to this sushi place and then playing the tournament. So I don't know if there were some special ingredients there, but yeah, it was kind of amazing experience, how it was. And you know, the level of confidence, this kind of courage, yeah, like French say, it was also amazing. So, and it was growing after game to game. And you know, it was kind of, I cannot explain it, but the feeling was like, for example, he would have played Magnus Carlsen in already the second round and stuff. And honestly, we were considering only winning. It was like we felt. And he was confused. Everyone was confused, you know, because usually Magnus was leading, and okay, maybe somebody would share the place, but whatever. But here he was like 3 points behind or 2 points behind, and absolutely amazing play of Fabiano. And when he was giving interviews, he was totally confused. He didn't even know what to say. He felt kind of strange, you know, like he's, you know, like there's one man show, and he's like a spectator more or less of this show. And this amazing confidence was there. And also from my side, I felt confident. I could tell him, you can play him whatever you want. You can do this, you can do that. You know, it doesn't matter. So all will be good. And that's exactly how it was happening. But this moment was short-lived, of course. It still continued a little bit because right from this tournament, we went to play. It was some kind of European event. I think it was in Bilbao. And there it was still, you know, going a little bit nearly the same way, but already, of course, some draws and everything. But then it was gone. So, which is, of course, is a normal thing. This is a one-time achievement. But you don't have to look back. No matter if it's a good result or bad result, you always have to look forward. Because forward, there will be new challenges, new circumstances, and you have to understand that circumstances matter. So they really matter, and you can work very hard, you can do all right, and you can have mediocre result. And you can do also completely nothing and just being not serious, and then suddenly you will have amazing result. And that is how, and I saw this situation often. It's not like one time or something. It's like a rule, So this is why, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't encourage you to do this again, the same or reproduce what you have done before. You will not succeed because it's due to some circumstances from your side, from your opponent's side, the general circumstances. So if you start analyzing all this, then you will understand how complex it was that it happened this or that. That's why also, even, the brainstorms, people like to make brainstorms, and parents like to make brainstorms, let's discuss how to improve, how to do this. I would advise very simple. You can do maybe occasionally some brainstorm, but mostly simply be ready. It's a long process, be patient, and simply continue no matter what.
Thank you very much. Now finally got the answer to my question. So this was all for the session from Grandmaster Vladimir Chuchelov. Please give it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you. And we will proceed to our next speaker. Mr. Ramesh, are you here?
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you well.
Okay, so let's start with my questions with our session, and after that we will proceed with, again, questions from the audience. Mr. Ramesh, beyond opening theory and tactics, what is the single, let's say, most important quality, it can be mental, emotional, or strategic, that you focus on building to turn a talented junior child into a champion?
So, I have a small presentation to make. So, if you don't mind, I can present it first, and that will cover most of the things I would like to share today with the audience. May I go ahead with that?
Yes, sure. You can share it.
Okay. So, this is the first document I would like to share. So basically, I would like to approach today's session from three angles. One, from the perspective of a player, and two, from the perspective of the parents, and three, from the view of a chess coach. So I'm trying to catalog the typical psychological issues a player faces. And before I get to this, to also answer your question, I believe that most of the training that is happening now is focusing largely on the technical aspects of the game, like how to improve the opening, middle game, end game, and so on. But it largely ignores the psychological aspects, which have a huge influence in the learning part. We are assuming simply like every child can learn in the same way and also deliver in the same way. But it is, in my experience, it's not the case. So I'm trying to catalog some of the issues which a player typically goes through. And it's very important to understand both from a parent's perspective and also from the coach's view that our students or our children, they are going through these difficulties. And if we know what they are going through, we can be more empathetic and also provide optimal solution. So some of the issues starting with the fear of losing. So there is this huge fear of failure. If this starts even from a young age, even for a 7-8-year-old child, they are not happy losing games. And when they lose games, it affects them a lot emotionally. And this is something we need to keep in mind, both as parents and as trainers. So the fear of losing games during a tournament. Now, what could be this? One, they may look at it as fear of failure, like others may look them as failures, not a successful individual. And they also collapse emotionally. Like when they lose a game, they start doubting themselves. Maybe I'm not born for chess. Maybe I'm not good enough. So they get all these doubts about themselves. And the other is fear of losing rating points. If I lose a game, I may lose 6.4 points today, or if I drew, I may lose 3.3, and so on. So they worry about these factors a lot. In my view, it's very unhealthy. And also, sometimes as they grow, they'll be playing for Ironman GM norms, GM titles, tournament titles. So right now, the World Current Championship is going on. Maybe a draw is required in the last round for the title, or top 3 plays. All this creates a lot of stress. And time management issues. Some children play very quick, some children play very slow. Concentration related issues. Why this can happen? One could be due to distractions. There are some children who play a lot of video games, and this is a huge problem among young boys and teenagers, or watching too many serials, social media, chatting with friends a lot, watching YouTube shorts, Insta reels. So these are what I mean by distractions, or they become very emotional. They are too emotional. And when you are emotional, you cannot focus. And incorrect priorities, like when you're playing a game or when you're attending a class, you are thinking about other things, and less control over ourselves. So when we realize we are getting distracted, we are not focusing, we are unable to get the concentration back, and also lack of commitment. Chess is not the priority for me. I have other things occupying my mind and attention. So that also can affect our concentration. And low confidence, this is a serious issue. Usually this kicks in even at the age of 10 or 11, as early as 10 or 11 years of age. So self-doubts, and why this can happen. Children who are not working hard, they usually have low confidence. Children who are not improving their chest strength, they also will have confidence issues. When someone has bad results over a period of time, it can affect the confidence. And when we get negative feedback or too much criticism from parents, friends, coaches, it can also affect our confidence. And some children, some players, they have doubts. Can I really become a good player? Do I have a future in chess? And when they have these doubts occupying them predominantly, they will not be playing freely. They will always have doubts, and this will hold them back. And also, some players get stagnated. They get stuck in a level, unable to improve. And why this can happen? For example, like players will have some weaknesses. I don't want to actually use the term weakness, but I'm using it mainly because that's how most look at them. So absence of strength, I would say, let's say poor time management. Someone is getting into time trouble often. They are not playing end games well. Their calculation skills are not good, and so on. And we are not getting better in those areas. We realize we have some problem and we are not getting better there. And we also have to keep acquiring new areas of strength. Let's say 1 year ago, my endgame was not good, but I worked a lot on my endgame skills the past 1 year. As a result, my endgame skills have improved, and so on. So building new strengths is not happening. And also, the child is not interested in the learning part. They are not interested in working hard. So for all these reasons, stagnation can occur, and then they don't know what to do, how to come out of it. And also handling pressure. So many players find it very difficult to handle pressure. It can come in different forms for different reasons. If we have less control over ourselves, then the pressure can take a huge toll. If you are very reactive, if you are very emotional, then handling pressure becomes more difficult. And there are some players who are lazy, and they are not good at working hard. And also many players, they are simply accumulating information, accumulating knowledge, but they are not improving their practical skills. So they are hearing things, they are seeing things, but they cannot do them. Okay, so I call this knowing is not doing. And many players, they are not interested in the learning process per se. They just are interested in playing games. It can be in Blitz form, Bullet, Puzzle Rush, watching streams. These are passive learning, not active learning. And active learning requires a lot of effort, energy, time, investment, which some players are unwilling to do. And many children get bored easily when they are taught some unpleasant things or uncomfortable. If it makes them uncomfortable, or the topic is difficult, or if you give them a difficult position, they quickly get bored and they kind of turn themselves off. And the other is lack of fighting spirit. Like whenever they are in a difficult situation or unpleasant situation or in a new situation, they give up. They, like, for example, if the player prepares an opening and the opponent plays a new opening which the player did not expect, they immediately collapse. They think like, oh my God, all my preparation is gone to waste. And I'm surprised my opponent is well prepared, so I'm going to lose. So they immediately go to the other extreme. They start thinking about losing the game. So we have to teach them how to resist, how to fight back in difficult situations. And this could also reflect lack of confidence in their skills. And the other extreme is relaxing too easily, like when they get an unrated opponent or a weak opponent or a great position, or when their preparation comes on the board. So whenever things go their way, they relax and become less alert, and this can prompt mistakes. But also over-dependence on coaches and others, kind of outsourcing the learning to others. The children think like, okay, if I go to this coach who is good, the coach will make me a great player. So they don't see an active role for themselves in their learning process, and they kind of abdicate their responsibility in themselves. So we have to make them aware that they are the hero of the movie. It is predominantly their responsibility, and we have to teach them the art of self-learning and so on. And poor learning skills. Not everyone learns efficiently in the same classroom. When same thing is taught at the same time, different children learn at different levels. So everyone has different skill sets. So some children suffer from this, and they are not able to recollect what they have learned. They are not able to recognize the patterns, and the technical skills, they are not able to improve, and not able to apply what is taught, and they are not good at self-learning. So these are some of the issues the players go through, and as trainers and as parents, it's good to know that our children or students are going through these issues. Not all of them. Every child will go through different sets of issues. And this should make us realize we should not be judging them harshly and give negative feedback. So we have to be patient, understanding, and help them deal with these issues. So this is the first part I wanted to share. Now, one moment. So any questions on what I have shared? So this is the first part I want to share. It's mostly from, I'm trying to highlight the problems which a player can go through.
Yes,
I'm not providing solutions for these things. I'm just identifying the issues.
We have questions from the audience. Can my colleague please pass the microphone?
Hello, Coach Ramesh. I see from one of the points, it says it's not a good thing if a player is collapsing too much emotionally. Yeah, and my son suffers from that a lot. Sometimes even during a friendly Blitz game, he sees he's got a winning position, he loses. This is a game where he's got absolutely nothing to lose, but when he loses, then emotionally collapses. Sometimes even during tournaments, somebody just calls you, your son there is crying, is lost. So how to avoid this? How do you help students who collapse too much emotionally after a loss or when they've got an inferior position? And then the second part of my question is, what are some of the examples of active learning? I see you categorize things like puzzle rush as passive learning. So if you can please share some ways of active learning. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The first part, the child not able to deal with the losses, but all deal with the disappointments, and they cry too much, they lose confidence. Some children get angry, some children become too sad, and many players are not able to sleep well at night, and so on. Now, what is important to understand is when they have already become too emotional, then it is very difficult to deal with them at that point of time. And whatever advice we give them is not going to reach them, is not going to help them. So what is important is before the events are happening, before the tournaments, when the children are calm at home with the parents or with the trainer in a classroom, that is the best time to teach the children how to deal with these things. So if a player is losing a game and already very sad and upset, my suggestion is not to give them too much advice at that point. Just make them aware. If you're a parent, you can say, I'm here for you. I understand you're going through a difficult moment. I'm here for you. If you need my help, I'm always there. And we can just leave it and let them deal with it themselves. But if we try to tell them, like, it's okay to lose or you will win tomorrow, these kind of things, it will just add more pressure, or they will think like we are judging them. And it won't really help, and sometimes it can even make things worse. So these psychological issues, I would suggest should be dealt with prior to the tournament, either by the parents or by the coaches. Now, I will also be sharing some of the perspectives, like how parents can deal with these type of issues in the other 2 slides, which I'll be sharing shortly. So maybe that will give you a better idea. But as I said, it's better not to deal with these things in the heat of the moment, because we may say something wrong and it can even backfire. It can make the child angry, or they may feel we are insensitive to their feelings. So the other question, active learning, passive learning, I will also be sharing a couple of Word documents. Maybe that's a better way to go. I will share 2 other documents. You can take screenshots or photos, and hopefully that will answer many of your questions, and then I can take the questions. So let me share my next document. So this one is regarding, sorry, not this one. Okay, not this one either. Yeah. So first, let me try to explain the role of a parent. So I already explained in the previous slide the issues a player goes through. So we will have a better understanding of what they are going through. So we'll be in a better position to give our suggestions. So now, parental role. There are 2 things. What a child needs to become a good player. Now, there are some things which a child needs from the outside world, which falls under the purview of the parental role. So first one, parental support. The parents should be able to give monetary, physical, time, emotional, mental support. So it's not just you spend money or take the child physically to the tournaments for training and so on. That is the logistics part. The second is the school support. Sometimes I know in many societies, the schools don't encourage their children to compete in tournaments or go for training. They focus more on attendance and academics. So this can harm or come in the way of child's training and competition participation. The third is the money part, the finance, training, getting infrastructure, traveling for tournaments. You need financial support. And this also falls under the parents. Then access to good coach or coaches. Some children, they stick with one coach, but the modern trend is the same player is going to multiple coaches. I'm not getting into the pros and cons. So getting access to good trainers at the right time at a young age will help. And also access to good tournaments. If they can play good tournaments right from young age, it will help in their learning process and other logistics. Visa, flight tickets, train tickets, accommodation, food, and so on. So these are the things which a child does not have any control. And the parents ideally have to take care of these things. And the internal qualities which a child would require to become a good player. Again, here the parents can only influence, but we cannot decide these things. So let me explain quickly. The talent part. So the talent, how I see talent is like hardware. It's like, let's say you have an iPhone 12. Now you cannot make an iPhone 12 into a 17. Whatever limitations iPhone 12 has, we have to accept it. But the softwares which we install on the iPhone 12 and how we make use of this softwares, it's entirely in our control. So the other skills than the talent part, these are under our control, under our influence. The parents ideally should be focusing on the software part, not worry too much. Does my child have talent? Does my child have it in them to become a great player? Don't worry about this, because the more you worry about this, you'll be ignoring the crucial software part. So what do I mean by software? One, the hardworking ability. Now I have a separate slide what I mean by hard work, but some things I can say. The ability to learn things that are not easy for us, the ability to learn things that I don't like, the ability to do difficult things, the ability to focus, all of them put together, I would say, is hard work. Not just spending more hours on preparation. That is just more work. So good concentration, the ability to focus well. I'm not explaining each of this, but these are all crucial elements that as trainers and parents, we should realize our children should be hardworking. They should have good concentration. They should have good learning skills. And to be a good learner, the primary ingredient is the interest in learning. So many children, we assume they are interested in learning, but they are not. I already mentioned in the previous slide, the children are interested in playing part, meeting friends, socializing, traveling, and so on. But some children are not really interested in learning. And can they be taught how to learn? And can we influence and make them better learners? I believe yes. And the parents and trainers have a huge role in this. And giving our best effort. Now, the learning will not happen if the children don't put a better effort. So sometimes, many times I have seen in the classrooms, some children put very good effort in learning. They are very keen. They are very involved, absorbed, but some children are not. So how to deal with such children? And healthy self-belief, self-image, self-confidence. What the child thinks about himself or herself is very important. That is kind of the backbone of the child, I would say, emotional, mental backbone. So it's very important, the parents and the coaches, the adults who are influenced under the sphere of influence, we don't criticize them too much and don't sow doubts in their mind, because whatever we sow, we have to reap. So it's very important we don't use negative language, negative criticisms too much, especially when they are hurting. And we have to learn how to use positive words, positive language with the children. And we have to teach them how to self-learn. We have to inspire them, we have to motivate them, we have to kindle that interest in children, that we have to make them believe chess is a learnable game. I can learn things and I can grow strong. We have to give them this feeling. And we should also teach them how to self-correct. Now, I don't need necessarily others to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I should be able to identify what I'm doing wrong, and I should be able to think about it, come up with a solution, and self-correct. And they should be ambitious. They should also believe they can achieve these ambitions. I'm not talking about desires. Anyone can desire anything, but ambition means it comes with responsibility. That it is my responsibility to make sure I achieve these ambitions. And we should teach them importance of long-term commitment, discipline. Discipline means doing the right thing over and over again without giving excuses. Keeping distractions under control. I already mentioned some of the distractions in the previous slide. We should teach them how to handle disappointments, and this parents can do, and this the coaches can do. And how to handle pressure, how to teach them proper time management. And we should also teach them that they should learn to do what is good for them, what is right for them, And many times the right thing or the good thing will be the tougher of the options before us. But children, typically, they will tend to choose to do what is easy and what they like. And many times they are not what is good for them. So we have to explain that there are two different things, and we have to choose the right thing. And we have to cultivate champion-like qualities at a young age. And we should not just focus on the technical aspects, opening, middle game, end game. We should also help them cultivate these champion-like qualities. And some of the champion-like qualities is what I mentioned here. And we believe like practice makes perfect, but I have a slight view. Practice only makes things permanent. So if I do something incorrectly again and again, I'll just become good at doing it incorrectly. I won't become good at doing it correctly. So we have to make sure like whatever we do repeatedly will become our habit. So we have to make sure that we do things in the right way, not just do things incorrectly over and over again. And we have to realize as parents that if you spend money, it's not going to guarantee that they're going to become good players. The time we spend, the travel, the effort, the energy, the money, these are only facilitators, but these are not the deciding factors. So the child's own self-belief, confidence, hard work, the fighting skills, the ability to deal with difficult situations, how they learn, these are the determining factors. So when the children are young, they don't have biases, prejudices, misconceptions. They don't have strong opinions on most issues. But as we are growing, we start forming these biases and prejudices and form opinions. So the parents and the coaches, we influence what kind of influence they are facing and what kind of opinions they are going to form. So we have to be very careful on what we expose our children to, what they see, what they hear from the media, from the outside world, and from the parents and the coaches. Okay, so this is, I'm not going to focus on this, and I believe this whole session is being recorded. Probably it will be posted on social media and it will be shared with you later, or you can just take a photo of this. So this is what I mean by hard work. So I would say the coaches, the parents, we should talk to children a lot, and preferably not during the tournament, prior to tournament, in between tournaments, when they are not very emotional, when they are not under pressure. We have to teach them what is good concentration, what is hard work. And so I try to explain each of this, like I spend like typically 15 minutes explaining what my understanding of hard work is. So when we talk about these things to young children, they absorb this very well and they get clarity on when we say hard work, they realize, okay, it's not just spending hours in front of a chessboard alone, that is hard work. Okay, so let me go to the last two slides. So this one is about parental mistakes. From my experience, I have seen like some children, they get very affected because the pressure they feel from the parents. So I've tried to catalog them. So one, we can easily take a very short-term view of things in terms of results and ratings. So today, if they win, we become happy. Tomorrow, if they lose, we become sad. Today, when they win, we think they are good players. Tomorrow, when they lose, we think they are bad players. So we keep changing our views, our emotions. We are very judgmental. And then based on our mood and we start reacting impulsively and emotionally, and usually in a negative manner. And this can have a very negative impact on the child's confidence, the self-image. And we parents, we tend to outsource the children learning to others, like coaches. So we think if I send my son or daughter to a good coach, the coach will make my son or daughter a better player. So we ignore the child's qualities, whether the child is interested in learning, are they confident, are they working hard at home, are they investing enough time and effort into learning, and so on. So we think like just taking the child to a coach, my job is over. And when the results are not good, we keep changing the coaches. And then this can also have an impact on the child. The the student-coach bonding, emotional bonding is very important. The coach should trust that if I tell something, my student is likely to follow it. Similarly, the student should feel my coach has my best interest in mind, and he is a capable person who can help me deal with my problems, and you can provide solutions for my problems. So this kind of trusting each other is very important for the relationship to work. But if the parents come in the way often, this bonding could never happen. And also many parents interfere with what should be taught, how it should be taught. They give instructions to the coaches, and this can also come in the way. And sometimes we don't schedule the classes in advance. We approach the coach at the last moment, and the coach could not be available when the child needs it. And some parents will not let their children compete in tournaments because they are afraid the children may lose games or the rating may go down. And they kind of protect the children from exposing them to competitions. This is very unhealthy. What I have seen, the children who play more usually learn faster and improve faster. So please don't shield them from competitions. And every time the rating drops or after every loss, the parents panic and we give negative feedback and we do some bad things which can harm the children. And after every game during a tournament, we keep giving negative feedback. And I think this is very unhealthy. The children the more we remind the children what they are doing wrong, the more likely they will do those wrong things again and again. So it's important we don't keep reminding them what they are doing wrong. So the negative feedback during the tournament should be kept to very, very, very minimal. And we should give children the space, the freedom to try new things, to take risks, to get hurt. I'm not talking physically. They should lose games and they should make mistakes. And after the tournament is over, we can analyze and learn. So we should not be too overprotective and judgmental. And we have to realize they are young players. They are not world champions yet. And they are going to make mistakes. If they are not making mistakes, they will already be world champions, right? So they are learning the game. We should give them the space to learn, make mistakes. And we have to realize it's a process. Learning is a process. And we should not focus only on the outcome, ignoring the whole process. And then every small issue, we make it too big and we blow it up out of proportion and we give our negative feedback. And this will make them very poor learners. Okay, so this is regarding the parental mistakes.
Mr. Ramesh, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So you mentioned about the coaches, the bonding between the player and the coach. My question is, I have seen that, for example, a lot of players, when they have some goal, I mean, they have their coach and they decide that they want one more coach. So she have two coaches, let's say. But the problem is that one coach has one system of how he trains the child and another has another one. Does it somehow affect the quality, how they learn, how they get the knowledge? And what's your opinion on that? Is it a good thing to have two coaches, or it's better to have just one who knows you? Because in my opinion, coach is not just a person, it's like your mentor. It's someone who knows your emotions, how you play, what do you feel, and what do you want?
Yeah, so it's very difficult to answer this, to give one exact answer to this question. But maybe I will share one of my philosophies on this. So what I strongly believe is there are many crucial, important questions. And all these questions should be asked, and there should be a pursuit to find an answer to these important questions. But we have to realize that there is no correct solution to most important questions. So for example, when did time begin? Or how big is universe? Now for scientists, they will have to ask these questions and try to find answers to these questions. But we have to realize, like, eventually no one is going to find answer. But in trying to find answer to these important questions, we learn many things in the process. So those are extremely valuable. So should the child work with one coach or multiple coaches? From what I have read, Faustino Aro, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who is one of the youngest talents in the world now. He has 4 or 5 trainers. Now, can we say based on this that it is good to have 4 or 5 trainers? There are other examples where a child became very strong having just one coach. And there are other examples where a child became a very good player without any coach. Okay, so now, which is the correct solution? There is nothing correct. So it is possible to become a great player without a trainer. It is possible to become a great player with one trainer. It is possible to become a great player with multiple trainers. So what is important is the child should feel comfortable. The coaches should not impose on the child their views or this is how things should be done. If the coaches are like in a classroom, in school, you have the children work with a physics teacher, a chemistry, biology, mathematics, English, so geography. So they work with many teachers, right? And everyone is teaching different things, but the children are able to learn. So as long as the teachers are teaching the right things, guiding them in the right way, I don't see a conflict. The children can adapt and learn multiple ways of learning. But if it is too judgmental, it could be difficult for the child to absorb all kinds of learning.
Thank you.
So before I take the next question, can I just share the last
yes, sure. Yes, sure.
document? Do we have enough time for this?
Yes,
I may need another 5 or 10.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So now I have covered from the player's perspective, what are some of the issues that is affecting the players they go through, difficulties the players go through, some common mistakes parents make, and parental role and responsibilities. And now I'll go to the trainer's role and responsibility. Here I'm trying to share my philosophy as a chess coach. This is how I look at things. So one, the coach should influence the student in 3 aspects. One, the technical aspects of the game, opening the game, end game, calculation, attack, positional play, defense, and so on. The technical aspects. The mental aspects, the trainer should be a positive influence in helping the student develop a strong mindset. And we should also help them grow physically well, in the sense they should take care of their sleep, they should be well rested, they should do exercise or sports depending on their age, a healthy diet, and so on. So physical, mental, and technical. I believe a coach has an important influence on all the 3 aspects. Now, getting to the chess part. So this is my philosophy of how I look at things. And I talk to my students in the first few sessions when I work with my students. Before I start teaching them chess, I talk about all these aspects. So in the previous slide where I spoke about the distractions, hard work, concentration, confidence, I talk to my students about all these issues, even when they are like as young as 7 or 8 years old. And I don't expect them to understand everything or agree to everything I say, but I just look at it like I'm planting the seeds in a fertile young mind. That's how I see. So I will talk about these things, I will share my views, and I hope some of it will have a positive, lasting impression in them. And it will also give them clarity in how to deal with this. So the first thing I say, chess is a learnable game. So, for example, like in many sports, it's natural. For example, if you take athletics, running. Now, we run with the legs. We cannot teach them to run with the hands, right? It will be against nature. But chess is a man-made game, artificial game. The rules man-made. So everything in chess, I believe, is learnable. If someone doesn't know how to attack or rook endgames or same color bishop endgame, or how to calculate, how to defend, everything can be learned, everything can be taught. It is a teachable game and it is a learnable game. And whatever I am not good at currently, I should not look at it as a weakness. So if I'm not calculating well, it does not mean I'm weak in calculation. I just have not learned how to calculate well. So if I can put a good time and effort, invest good time, effort, and energy, I can learn and become good in anything, especially in things I'm currently not good at. So this gives the children hope. So they don't look at themselves as a static being, but a dynamic being. I can learn what I don't know. And I can become good at things currently I'm not good at. And this is very important for children to know at a young age. The second, learning and improving is very important. Unless we learn, we don't improve. And to learn, we have to invest good effort. And these things we have to explain to the children. And this is more important when they are young, rather than what is happening to their rating, whether they won or lost in today's game or in this particular tournament. So this will remove the pressure from their mind, because we are telling it is a process, it is a long-term thing, learning and improving. So today, if you lose a game, or this month, or in this tournament, if you lose rating, it's fine. I'm not going to judge you negatively. This will give them the confidence and to pursue learning. And as I mentioned before, you need to invest good effort to learn. Learning will happen only we change. So if I think a rabbit has 3 legs and the teacher teaches me, no, the rabbit has 4 legs, then I should be ready to change my opinion. If I say, no, the rabbit has 3 legs, then I'm not learning. So learning will happen only when we are willing to change how we look at things, how we perceive things. So we have to explain all this to the students. And we have to, a good coach, teacher should teach the value of good work ethics, how to concentrate, why it is important to learn just by themselves. A coach cannot teach everything a player has to know. We can only teach a few things because they are not spending infinite time with us. So we have to teach them why it is important to self-learn and the value and importance of home preparation. If we don't teach these things to young children, they will never learn these things. And there's no point in blaming the children to be lazy. And we should teach them what they should learn at home, how they should learn at home, and how they should learn in a classroom environment, and so on. We have to explain these things. And if you have more time, I can go in detail about these things, but I'm just highlighting the role and responsibility of a coach. If we don't have enough time to go in detail on these aspects, you can always refer ChatGPT. And I'm not joking. You can just ask these points to, I don't know, Grok or Ask Perplexity, Copilot, ChatGPT. They will give you good. So please investigate about these things. Like when I say concentration is important, I would expect the coach or the parent, you can go to YouTube and search how to concentrate, how to improve concentration, what is concentration, these kind of things. Listen to lectures by experts, learn from them, get some books, read about them. So first, if you learn what is good concentration, how to deal with disappointments, then you are in a better position to transfer this knowledge, to wisdom to young generation. So we have to teach them how to study chess, importance of learning. So many children, they want to learn only 2 things. The easier things they are willing to learn, and the things they like, they are willing to learn. If something they don't like, they don't want to learn, they will resist learning. If something is difficult, they will resist learning. So we have to tell young children that some things will be difficult, some things you may not like. Some, for example, some children will like to attack, but they don't like to defend. They like middle game, they don't like end game. They may like to play sidelines, they don't like to play main lines, and so on. So we have to tell them, you have to learn everything. If you want to become a good player, you cannot pick and choose what you like and what you have to learn. You should be mentally ready to learn everything, even things that are difficult, even things you don't like. And we should not judge them negatively on a game-to-game basis, tournament-to-tournament basis. So when they lose to lower-rated opponents, all these are very normal. Okay, so they are going to win some games, draw some games, lose some games. So they may win from a losing position, they may lose from a winning position. All these are possible. So as a good coach, we should not be judging and reacting on a game-to-game basis. They are going to play bad games. They are going to play some stupid moves. They are going to go through difficult months. So we should not panic and react negatively every time this happens. And we should learn how to deal when students lose games or when they perform badly in a tournament. And we should also teach our students how to handle losses. Normally what I say, like we look like this: winning is good, drawing is okay, losing is bad. So this is the hierarchy. We normally teach the students, like winning is good, losing is bad. What I normally tell the students is like, this is winning, drawing, losing. So it's like same. Okay, we look at, they are just three different experiences. Winning is a pleasant experience, losing is an unpleasant experience. So we will be going through all these kind of different experiences on a day-to-day basis, every tournament we play, and we should magnanimously deal with all these experiences. So we should not lose our confidence every time we lose. We should not doubt ourselves every time we lose. And in my view, losing is not a bad thing. Losing is not a shameful thing. A player should not feel guilty for losing a game. And it's important from coaches and parents' viewpoint to not make them feel bad, ashamed, or guilty when they lose. So we should learn how to deal with those disappointing moments, and we should teach children how to deal with them. So many times parents think, oh, my son or daughter is weak in opening to middle game transition, calculation, defense, blah, blah, blah. So as I said, they are young children, they are growing, they are learning, they will become strong in the future, not immediately. So they are going to make mistakes. So those mistakes are not because they are weak. So please don't teach the students they are weak in many things. Don't say you are weak in calculation, your endgame is weak, because they will start believing that and they will never become good in those things. So we should always understand they have not yet learned them. So don't plant this seed in your students or children's mind that they are weak in many things. So we should teach them the role of distractions, how to handle these distractions better, like social media, video games, TVs, movies, serials, chatting with friends, and so on. So how to allocate time, so how to relax in a healthier way, we have to teach them. And how to, as a coach, we have to teach them do's and don'ts, how to be more disciplined in a classroom so they don't disturb the trainer and they don't disturb each other. And the last part, so we should teach them how much time they should spend in home preparation. So this is not exact. I'm just giving an idea. When they go to school, they can prepare like 3 hours a day. And if they have weekends and holidays, they can prepare more. I have mentioned 4 to 6 hours. It is directly proportionate to how ambitious they are. The more ambitious they are, and in which grade of school they are studying, accordingly they have to decide. But we have to emphasize when they are young that they have to spend hours and hours of learning chess. And teacher's role is motivating, inspiring, encouraging. So when they leave from the class, they should not go out tired. Rather, they should go more enthusiastic. When they go home, they should take the chessboard and start seeing more chess. That means they are very encouraging and inspiring and motivating. So we should give them space to make mistakes and learn in the process. Don't give suggestions every time they make mistakes. They should also think about the mistakes themselves and come up with their own solutions. It's very important to self-learn. We should not be very critical. We should use positive words, positive language. We should be more patient with them and their shortcomings. And we should help them, like how much work, effort they should be spending on different phases of the game, like opening, middle game, and game. My suggestion is most coaches and parents, they emphasize too much on opening. Maybe 80-90% they are spending on opening. I would say 20% of the time we should be spending on opening, 60% in middle game. And this is where usually the results are decided, and end game. So spending most of the effort and time on learning openings, I would say, is counterproductive. Many times we are trying to teach, many coaches, they try to surprise the opponent with a sideline, or an offbeat opening, or a novelty, and so on, trying to shock the opponent into losing. But I would say this approach we take because we are giving too much importance to the result of the game. We want our student to win every game they play. So we are trying to come up with ways which we think will maximize their winning chances. But a good coach, I believe, should focus on long-term growth than short-term gains. Long-term growth is more important than short-term gains. So with that in perspective, we should try to build new strengths in our children. So the children should play what they know well. They should not try to enter new areas where they don't have much idea and they struggle in the hope that they will surprise the opponent or catch the opponent off guard. So when they are young, they should stick to their strength. And when they grow stronger, they are in a position to exploit opponents' weaknesses. So the coaches should also spend at least a couple of hours every day to update themselves, like what topics I'm good at teaching, how I am teaching, how I can teach this topic in a better way, what kind of examples I'm showing, how can I get better examples on the topics I'm teaching, what new topics I have to learn so I can teach them to students. Many coaches, they just keep repeating the same topics which they know with different sets of students. So it's very important we learn to teach new topics. There are so many good things that our students have to learn. Our limitations should not limit what our students learn from us. And if we just transfer information to the students by stating them facts or giving information, it is not teaching. They can just read things from a book and learn those things themselves. So the teaching is not just transferring information, talking about things, but making them do those things. So if you're teaching prophylaxis, let us say, you can give explanations, you can show some examples, and then you give them positions, make them think prophylactically and take prophylactic decisions, maybe 30, 40, 50 positions they have to solve in front of us, and then only they become good at those things. So just telling them prevent opponent idea, show 2 examples, doesn't make them good in prophylactic classes. And then you can have a rating target for your students, but this is for your own reference. We don't share this with the student. We don't impose it on the students. And you can try to help them achieve those targets and devise a plan accordingly. So these are some of the things I wanted to share. I have many more things to share, but I believe we've already
Yes, we have a
taken too
time
much
limit.
time. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So these are the things I want to share. So if you have any questions, we have to take.
Okay, we have 4 questions from the audience. So
I have one personal question. Sometimes my students spend too much time thinking in positions that are not really critical. What method do you use to teach young players the difference between deep calculation and unnecessary overthinking? Thank you.
Yeah, so regarding time management, like again, if the students are thinking more, during the tournament, we should not be telling, okay, yesterday you played very slow, got into time trouble, made mistakes, some lost. So today I want you to play fast. This is a very bad advice in my view. So whatever you want your students to do, it is very important we don't tell them directly. So let us say if you want your students to play fast, if the students are getting into time trouble and you want them to play fast, you should not tell them to play fast. But instead, the right approach is to teach them how to think efficiently. If you can teach them how to think efficiently and effectively, automatically they will manage time better. Okay, so this is one. The second is, I would say post-pandemic, chess has grown exponentially online because you have more YouTube channels, Twitch streamers, social media. The game has become very popular and more young children are coming and playing chess. And the coaches would have seen, the parents would have seen. And what some of the side effects is, everyone thinks their students or their children can play, become like a Gukesh or Abdul Sattarov or something like this. They think my student or children can become champions. They have very high expectations. And this puts tremendous pressure on young minds, young shoulders. And this is one of the reasons young players get into time trouble. Now, before 7 years or 10 years, the proportion of children who get into time troubles who play slow was not this high. The last few years, more children are playing slowly because they are afraid of making mistakes, they are afraid of losing, they are afraid of getting criticized when they make mistakes or lose from parents and coaches. And this is one of the reasons why children are playing slow. So unless we address these deep-rooted issues and just tell them, expect them to play slow because we want them to play slow, it's not going to happen. So when they are training with us, we have to talk to them about these issues. We have to tell them, if you lose games, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to criticize you. Even if you lose a game, I would still appreciate your effort and dedication. I believe in you. I trust. It will to play without tension. And children who play more freely, they are less likely to get into time troubles. So they are under pressure to perform. And this is also one of the crucial factors that is slowing them down. And they are afraid of taking decisions because they are worried they will make a mistake. So we have to give them the confidence. We are not expecting you to play like a god. You can make mistakes and we are fine with it. But please give your best effort. Concentrate well, give your best effort. This is what, as a coach, I'm expecting from you.
Thank you. We have a next question.
Okay, thank you. Looking at how India is progressing now, my question is there a curriculum that every coach must follow in India? That's number one.
No.
And then secondly, okay.
Answer is easy.
Okay,
No.
okay, can I come to the next one? You already spoke
Yeah.
about the time that one must spend on the opening, the 20-60-20. But how important is solving the puzzles, like aligning that to solving the puzzles in terms of the opening, the middle game, and the end game? And then the third one is just personal. My son is studying in SRM, Institute of Science and Technology in Poteri. He's struggling to get the tournaments and to get a coach. Are you available to work with him?
Sorry, can you repeat the last question one more time, please?
I'm
The personal one.
from South Africa. I'm saying my son is studying in India. He's in the Tamil Nadu area in Poteri, SRM, Institute of Science and Technology. So he's struggling to get the tournaments to play at and to get a coach to work with. So are you available to work with him?
Okay, so you can probably get my contact details from the organizers and we can discuss this offline. And regarding the first question, as I mentioned, there is no Indian chess secret which is churning out champions. I would say it's mostly about the process. We are taking a long-term perspective. We teach we value hard work, we value struggle. We don't want our children to be protected from disappointments. So I normally tell my students, like, you have to struggle, you have to suffer a bit, you have to go through disappointments, and you should still believe in yourself. You can make mistakes, it's fine. I'm not going to judge you. And teaching them how to work hard. I think all these things, if we can do, any child, irrespective of their race or geographical location, I think they will perform much better. So there is no one Indian secret, I would say. It's just good work ethics, good value systems.
Thank you. We have one more question.
Two questions, actually. Hello, Mr. Ramesh. Thank you for the lecture. The first question: if the child is talented, but doesn't rely on themselves because of the way their parents raised them, how can I help them become more independent? And second one.
Yeah, so I have shared one more document. So for the coaches, they were asking to help plan a curriculum. I hope this will help. That's why I'm sharing this. You can take a photo, make use of it. I'm not going to go into details. So the question is, like, if the parents, the children in different societies all the children, they are heavily influenced by the society they are exposed to, the family environment, the coaches they are exposed to, and the peer pressure, their friends of the same age. So they are learning from the parents, the family, the school, the friends, the coaches, the society, and the media they are exposed to. So coaches alone cannot be, we should not think that we are the only sole influencers. So they are learning, they are being influenced from all sides. So but the best part is the children see the coaches as figure of authority. Now, for example, if a father, mother says something to the child, but if a doctor says the same thing, the child is more likely to listen to a doctor because he comes from a position of authority. So the coaches are in a position of authority. So what we say, in my view, has more value in a child's mind than the social media, the parents, the friends, and so on. So if we are able to gain the trust of our students by our competence and by making it clear that we believe in them, we trust them, and we are there to help them grow, and we are capable, if we can establish this, they will respect us, they will trust us. And once we have established this, then we teach them the good things of hard work and so on. They are more likely to learn from us than from the other influences. So gain the trust through your competence and by your honesty in trying to help them. And once you have gained that trust and respect, use your competence to help them.
Okay, so the last question, sorry. It's personal. I coached 3 WIMs and 1 IM before age of 15. But after that, I feel it's getting harder. What material do I need to work on myself so I can help, I can explain it to them?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations. You have produced an IM and 3 WIMs below the age of 15. That's very nice to know. In my view, children are very good at learning. So teach them good work ethics. So we don't have to teach them everything ourselves. So we have to convince the students that they have to self-learn. As I already mentioned, the home preparation is extremely important. We have to teach them and convince them why it is important to work at home, how they should work at home, what are the barriers they'll be facing and how to overcome them, and how to learn different topics by them. These players who are already international masters and WIMs, they are already smart and they can learn the difficult things themselves. And as far as upgrading the coaches, it is, as I mentioned, There are many good books on different topics. I just shared one slide, in my view, the 10 major areas. So ask yourself which topics you are good at teaching. And so for good teaching, you need the topic, the explanation, good understanding of the topic, good explanation, so that the children, when they hear you explain something, they are able to understand and relate to it and remember them well, assimilate it well. And then you have to show them very good examples, which brings out the essence of the topic which you are teaching them. And then give them exercises, make them solve in front of you, 20, 30 positions. So don't just make them solve 2, 3 positions and move to the next topic. So stick to a topic for more number of classes, and then gradually make them more and more difficult. And this way they become very good at the topic. Then you can move to the next topic. Alternatively, you can explain a topic, show them few examples, make them solve few questions at home, and then give them book recommendations on the topic where the students can go home, investigate more and learn and become experts in those topics. And also, as I mentioned earlier, identify new important topics and study from different source material. On any topic, it's very easy to find good material. You can just, as I said, you can use ChatGPT. You can say like, give me good books to teach rook and pawn and game in chess. ChatGPT will give you good book recommendations. So on any topic, if you want to good reference material, ask internet, Google, you will get good material. Get those material, go through them, read them, understand them. And then once you have understood, think about them. Are you ready to now teach this to your students? If you feel competent enough, confident enough, then teach them. So learn new topics yourself and teach them to your students.
Thank you. Mr. Ramesh, we have 2 final questions. Adil, can you please pass first here? And then.
Hi, my question is around goals and helping to set goals with children. I don't like making a rating goal like you mentioned, because I think kids focus on that so much already. But I'm not sure what your advice is in terms of maybe goals around a certain aspect of the game, or performing in a certain way in a certain tournament, or beating a certain opponent, or a percentage of wins with black against d4 or something like that. What's the best advice in terms of goal setting with children?
Yeah, for goal setting, as you mentioned, doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of rating or winning this tournament and so on. But you can, as a coach, based on the students' potential and hardworking skills, how much time they are investing, how good they are, you can have your own targets. Like I have some targets, I will usually have targets for every student of mine, but that is for myself. So I can guide them accordingly. The other kinds of targets can be, you can say as a coach, you can think yourself, okay, I'm going to make this student very good in rook and pawn things in the next 3 months. This can be a target for yourself. Like I'm going to teach this topic to my student. Or you can say like, my target is to help my student deal with disappointments, or help them manage time better, teaching them how to work at home, how to handle pressure. So this can be psychological also. Okay. So few important things, as I mentioned, confidence, concentration, hard work, handling disappointments. These are all very important. I have already shared some of the slides, like coach's responsibility, the students' psychological issues they face. Please go through each of those points slowly, because we did not have time. I did not dwell on each of it longer. So I've just cataloged them. Go through each of this point slowly, pass. How can I help my student deal with this issue? Am I already capable enough? Do I possess sufficient knowledge, wisdom to help my student? If you think no, listen to YouTube videos from experts, buy books, read from websites. There are different sources. Invest time learning about understand that issue better, and then help the student deal with this issue. This can also be an aim. You can also tell your student, I want you to think about your time management. Okay, and I want you to improve your time management in the next 2 months. You can give a target like this to your students. Okay, so you can ask some provocative questions. Why do you think you get into time trouble? Why do you think you spend so much time on some moves? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of making moves, decisions? Are you afraid of making mistakes? What can happen if you make a mistake? Okay, they will say, I may lose the game. What can go wrong if you lose a game? What is the problem? My rating can go down. So what? So make them think and find solutions themselves. These can be targets as well. Technical aspects can be target. You can say, I want you to learn prophylaxis yourself. These are the books I want you to read. These are the chapters from these books I want you to read and learn this topic. And then you can have a target. So the child is learning prophylaxis at home and you are teaching calculation in the classroom. So they are learning something from you. They are learning something by themselves. You can set targets like this as well.
Thank you very
much. You can come
much.
up with creative ways of inspiring them to learn things.
Thank you. And the last question?
Grandmaster Ramesh, how are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for this beautiful lecture. My daughter met you in the Charlotte Chess Club and during the summer camp, and it was really, really great. But I want to ask you, Ramesh, about coaching. How many hours you would recommend that the students spend with a coach in a week? Because in the US, coaching is not cheap. You're talking about a couple $100 per hour. So it's not feasible to do like 2 or 3 hours a week, you know, about this. And in India and some countries, they have support system where they, you know, provide coaching. Like my daughter's coach, Mr. Elshan Muradi Obadi, he told her when he was there in Iran, he was getting free coaching because the state provided coaching for him, and he would just be spending hours with his coach. Of course, that's not possible in the US or other countries. What do you think? How many hours is feasible with a coach?
Yeah, again, as I said, like we cannot put a number, specific number. We cannot say in a week they should spend 3 hours, 45 minutes, 23 seconds with a coach. So there is no correct answer for this. So based on affordability of the parents, based on coaches availability, are there good coaches in the locality they live? Nowadays, online training is also possible. So if there are no good coaches available locally, they can also work with trainers from other geographical locations, even from other countries or continents, if they can afford it. And also the coaches should be available. Like in India, there's a huge demand for trainers and coaches are all busy. And when the students really want them, the coaches are not available, even if affordable. So affordability, availability, access, all this will determine how much time a student should spend. But the most important thing from the parents' perspective, if they cannot afford a trainer, good trainers, if they cannot afford trainers for long hours, just tell the children they are not missing anything. They can learn by themselves and become a strong player. You give them this hope, and you can reach out to experienced trainers or YouTubes where they are explaining how to work, what to work, and so on, and refer them to the children and say like, you can learn chess, you are a smart child, you can learn chess yourself, and please go to these websites or YouTube channels, learn how to self-learn and learn. So there is no correct number. If the child can learn from a trainer, it is good. If it is not possible, it's fine. We have to deal with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this was the final part of today's masterclass. Thank you very much, Grandmaster Ramesh. Thank you for your time, sharing some insights and information. It was very valuable. Please give it up for our Grandmaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear participants. It was our second masterclass, our series. Tomorrow, we would love to see you to our last final masterclass about scholarships. And We would be very happy if you could follow us on our social media platforms and follow up what's happening. We'll have much more new initiatives. So have a good evening and see you tomorrow. Thank you.